everyone. This is Outnumbered. I'm McEnany on this Friday. Here is my co-host, Emily Compagno. Also joining us, Tomi Lahren, Fox News contributor and host of Tomi Lahren is Fearless on Outkick and FoxNews.com. Rosanna Scotto, Fox 5 anchor and host of The Underground Economy on Fox Nation. And Paul Morrow, Fox News contributor, attorney, and retired NYPD inspector. What a day to have him, because this is our lead story. Former FBI Director James Comey is under active federal investigation for assassination threats against President Trump. I can hardly believe it. I couldn't believe it when I saw it. He posted this picture of seashells arranged in the shape of 8647 with the caption, "Cool shell formation on my beach walk." No, not so cool. In fact, 86 is frequently used as a call sign for murdering or getting rid of someone. You would think the FBI director would know that. While the White House swiftly condemned the message as an attempt to put out a hit against the 47th president, Comey took down the photo hours later and posted this curious explanation, quote, "The shells I saw today on a beach walk, which I assumed were a political message. I didn't realize some folks associate those numbers with violence. It never occurred to me, but I oppose violence of any kind, so I took down the post." You'll notice there's not an apology there. And it's hard to believe that a former FBI director with a storied career in law enforcement had no idea about the meaning behind 86. It's defined in the Urban Dictionary this way, quote, "To get rid of, originally for killing someone, the phrase 80 miles out and 6 feet under is reserved for someone who had to dig their own grave 80 miles from civilization and then get shot execution style." Comey had no clue. President Trump, though, is not buying it.
He knew exactly what that meant. A child knows what that meant. If you're the FBI director and you don't know what that meant assassination. And it says it loud and clear. Now, he wasn't very competent, but he was competent enough to know what that meant. And he did it for a reason.
So a source of mine at the FBI I corresponded with this morning, this is what the source said to me, currently at the FBI. The former director not knowing what that meant is one of the least believable things he has ever said, and that's a low bar. But the more he behaves like this, the easier it is to see how his leadership under the Bureau became so weaponized. It's made the work of Kash Patel and Dan to root out the culture and focus on the priorities of letting good cops be cops all that more important. I think that's spot on, Paul, because I want to pull up the resume of James Comey. Look at this. FBI director, you can see there, 4 years, deputy attorney general, Southern District of New York, Eastern District of Virginia, and in fact, at SDNY, guess what he worked on? The Gambino crime family. Yeah. So you don't think he knew what 86 meant?
You know, I always heard 86 referred to a bar downtown at 86 Bedford, a place called Chumley's. It's an old speakeasy, and it's still there, and the address is 86 Bedford, and so that's a bit of a New Yorkism. He was in New York. He was the U.S. attorney here. Now, full disclosure, he was there before I started bringing cases there. But that said, I'd heard about him by reputation, et cetera. And I think let's expand the story. I think what this really does, first of all, he's the former FBI director, right? He's playing with shells on the beach. I mean, this is what it comes to. Yeah. But secondly, this validates every one of the worst theories you ever heard about the deep state and the weaponization of the FBI. Let's remember specifically what went on with him in the lead up to the 2016 election, right? You had that story break about Hillary Clinton having a server in a bathroom out west someplace. I think it was in Colorado, and classified material on it, right? They do the deep dive on it. That is the Bureau. They come back with a term, gross negligence. That puts it firmly under an arrest. That's in the statute. Under Comey's leadership, that language, that specific language, got changed. And then he came out and he gave that very obfuscating press conference saying, we're not going to charge, nobody would go forward with this. You know who changed that language under his leadership? Peter Strzok. That's not as per me, that's as per CNN's reporting. That validates, this stuff validates all our worst theories about what happened. And I know plenty of good agents who are very happy to see him gone. I'm very happy we have new leadership.
And you can't view this in isolation. You've got to view this in the context of Jim Comey's other statements. Watch him here. I'll ask you, do you think this man has an axe to grind? Here he is fantasizing about putting Donald Trump in a double-wide jail cell.
Do you agree with that it would be difficult or nearly impossible for the law enforcement institutions to put him in actual jail?
No, they would just put him in a double wide somewhere out near the fence, out in the grass. And he would eat there, he'd shower there, he'd exercise there, he'd be away, as Danya Perry said, from general population, but it's obviously doable.
I mean, that's not a normal fantasy, Tommy.
No, it's not. But as disgusting as what he posted was, and he says he just came upon it and decided to take a photo. He's an influencer now, I suppose. But to that point, actually, as much as I think that he has weaponized and as much as I think that he would likely like to see horrible things happen to our president, which is abhorrent, I've noticed a pattern with these Democrats or Democrat-adjacent operatives, and it goes right along with the AOC, the Bernie, the Jasmine Crockett. In order for them to get attention in this news cycle, they have to do things like this. They have to continue to up the ante because they get attention for it. And they don't care that it's negative attention. They care that people are talking about him. And that's what I feel like a lot of this is. I mean, President Trump had to address it, right? We're talking about it now. It's as if, and though to get relevance and a chance to hit the news cycle again, they have to do things like this.
Yep.
And there's never any consequences because cancel culture never catches up with these individuals. That's what I think this is, a play for attention.
You know, and talking about finding shells on the beach, Emily, that's apparently something he likes to do, and apparently he finds bizarre things on the beach. I ran pretty much every day of Christmas break on the beach. I never stumbled upon like violent messages about Trump or painted shells, but Jim Comey apparently does. I don't know what beach he's on. Look at this. This is a shell he stumbled upon in October. He put it out, and you can see it has a political message, vote Harris. He said, saw this at the beach. Ariel understands the assignment. I mean, he finds some interesting things on his beach walks.
Ugh. I mean, to me, this is like the embarrassing thing about social media is that it gives the quirky components of people an actual amplification method. Look, he and his meager amount of followers now sees essentially that he's relishing and reveling in the fact that violence is cavalier to them. And that, to me, is what this signifies, which is that you will never get a condemnation of violence from the left ever, and that they will always excuse and approve any threats of violence against the president because they have dehumanized him and they have created him to be a monster that needs to be destroyed. There's absolutely no humanity, and I believe that he should be held to a higher standard as a former FBI director. And the argument over whether he knows 86, well, that just either makes him incompetent or completely have grown up under a rock. I mean, even when you said server, I was like, oh yeah, cocktails. All of us who have waited tables, anyone who is in the real world, who has been at a restaurant or seen a menu, we know what 86 is. So for me, I think I see this as a spinelessness, because now that he says, oh, I didn't know, well, then why don't you own it? You sure behind the scenes and in front of some cameras are real bold about the comments you make about the president. So why don't you just own what you did instead of now trying to say I didn't know what it means? To me, it just adds invertebrate on top of the list of deficiencies and incompetence that he has. I hope, by the way, they pursue this legally.
Yeah, and it seems like they might be. You know, Rosanna, this was an op-ed he published in the Washington Post last year, and he was slamming Trump for inciting political violence. We should always worry about political violence, especially when violent rhetoric and behavior are embraced, even celebrated by one of our political parties and its leaders. For someone who's taken the time to write an op-ed about political violence, you think he would think twice after a bullet grazed the head of the former president, 2 assassination attempts. I think he'd think very hard about the messages he's putting out about a sitting president.
He's been very irresponsible in his words and his actions. I mean, we're talking about 86. He comes from a law enforcement family. Right. I mean, I come from a restaurant family. And so we know what 86 means. Like, get rid of whatever you're about to serve. It's gone. But what was so cool about that little rock formation or shell formation that caught his eye, that he thought it would be great to put on his social media? It was not exactly the right thing. And, you know, you go back 2016, a lot of people think he cost Hillary Clinton the election when he talked about, you know, investigating her for the private service. And then he also went after Trump back then for the Russian collusion. So this is a guy who said some crazy things along the way.
Yeah, and, you know, I didn't want to have our producers grab this because I don't want to give this man any more attention than he's gotten, but he did post something at 5:29 p.m. yesterday. Nice, from Publishers Weekly. Out Tuesday, May 20th. He has a book out next Tuesday. So you have to ask yourself, was there a PR component to this? No one's in his mind, but the book message came out about the same time as the beach walk when he found the message about President Trump.
Hey everyone, I'm Emily Campagno. Catch me and my co-hosts Harris Faulkner and Kaylee McEnany on Outnumbered every weekday at 12 p.m. Eastern, or set your DVR. Also, don't forget to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page for daily highlights.